Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. According to the U.S. Census, there are 21.68 million African American women in the United States. That's 52% of the total Black population. Black women are busy. They attend college and receive a degree, hold white-collar and service occupations as employment, remain single for the most part, are overrepresented in healthcare issues like high blood pressure and maternal death, and are the fastest-growing segment of entrepreneurship. Up next on Another View, the state of Black women in America. Intelligent conversation with the Another View Roundtable. That's next, after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. I can tell you now the conversation has already started with Another View Roundtable Pundits. It is amazing. But before we get to them, let me tell you two things very, very quickly. The Links, the Norfolk chapter of the Links Incorporated, they are doing their 4th annual Apathon. It is next Saturday, March the 18th, from 9 until 1, will be held at Norfolk State University. Now, this is for kids ages 10 to 17, and they will feature interactive exercises on the Internet of Things. Participants will learn how to code, build apps, and to edit JavaScript. So this is something we want to get our kids involved in. If you want more information, you can email norfolklinksSty@gmail.com. That's norfolklinksSty@gmail.com for more information. And also want to let you know that at Old Dominion University on March 22nd from 6:30 to 8 p.m., Gabby Rivera will be there. She is the keynote speaker, Queer Latinx Joy and Radical Storytelling. Gabby is the first Latina to write for Marvel Comics, penning the solo series America, about America Chavez, a portal-punching queer Latina powerhouse. So it sounds like a great conversation. It's going to be going on there. And she wants to talk about her experiences as a queer Puerto Rican from the Bronx and as an LGBTQ youth advocate. So if you'd like to attend, you do need to register. Go to odu.edu/EPS to register. That's odu.edu/EPS to RSVP. So it's Women's History Month, and I asked the Another View Roundtable to give some serious thought and research into the state of Black women in this country. Now, there are a wide range of issues that they want to discuss, and these will be their opinions, so don't call me about stats and all of that. But let's meet our pundits. Dr. Alvean Lyons specializes in human dynamics through her company, Alvean Lyons, Inc. Hello there.
Hi, everybody.
So good to see you.
I know, I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Daun Hester is the treasurer of the city of Norfolk. Hey, Daun, how you doing?
Hey, everybody.
And Gaylene Kanoyton is a political consultant and president of the Hampton NAACP and a rabble rouser here lately.
Happy Herstory Month.
Our fourth pundit, Carol Pretlow, had an issue over at Norfolk State that she had to deal with today, so she was unable to be with us, but we wish her well. Mm-hmm. So, ladies, I'm going to ask each of you this exact same question, and you tell me what you think. What grade, A through F, would you give the state of Black women in America today, and why? And so you know I'm coming to you first, Alvean. So don't even look at me sideways. What
this
grade?
is like a cheat. It's like a cheat sheet.
Yes, sir.
It's like a cheat sheet.
Was
having her go first.
Things to think about.
But having her go first is like a cheat sheet.
Y'all are the cutest. Okay. All right. So
What grade? And I mean, we're talking overall right now. We know there are pockets of issues, but overall, being a Black woman in America, what grade would you give?
I would give us a B plus.
Okay.
And if it was numeric, I would say an 89, solid 89. Okay. And my reason for the high part, because we know in order to be leaning into the A's, there are multiple A factors, right? So I think that what we're doing in terms of our commitment to entrepreneurship in America, how it is helping to drive and expand the economy is extraordinary. I would give us an A on our level of resilience. No matter what happens to us, we keep finding it to be able to lean forward and very often lead our families, whatever version of family that may mean. So those are strong A's for me. Where I think that I feel a little C-ish is the way that we compromise ourselves in terms of our physical identities, the things that we allow to take place relationally, and we put up with when we know we deserve better than what it is that we are doing. We compromise on too many things that are about self-worth that concerns me because it has generational impact. When you don't see yourself as good enough and you raise a daughter that doesn't see herself as good enough and you raise a son that doesn't see women as good enough, there are ripple effects that come from that. So my lower scores that are pulling us outside of that A has a lot to do with how we see ourselves outside of the world identity, but inside, like there's just a little bit too much skin we're willing to put out here in these streets, if you ask me, and I think that we need to, you can't, for those women who are interested in men, you cannot catch a man with your body and then expect him to respect your mind. We've got to come with different bait. And there's too much of that is happening too often. And we're saying let's not shame each other for choosing, A, B, C, and D. But for me, it's not about shaming. It's about a level of personal respect that says that I am more than this, and I expect you to treat me as more.
Okay, and we're going to get more into that a little bit later on. Daun, since you just got here, I'm going to go to Gaylene and give you another second to think. Gaylene, what grade?
I would say a B. I think that Black women, they have fought hard to get to where we are. We have fought hard to get to where we are, and it's a lot of work. I mean, we just elected in Virginia our first Black Congresswoman, right? And she had, and Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan has moved up the ranks. And if you think about the history going way back to even slavery, and you look the plight of the Black woman to where they started to where they are right now, it's been a hard fight, but they have moved up, and they've always been, family has always been number one with them, and they've always kept the family in front of them, even before themselves, right? So I would give them a B.
And even before what the media says. But that's
even
another story.
That's a whole nother story than what the media says. But they would fight tooth and nail for their kids and their family or whatever. I'm telling you, don't mess with my child.
Daun,
and the betterment of our community.
Okay. Okay. So
I
we
don't
got
know
a B
how
and a
to
B.
add much to that. But
would you give it a B also?
As a teacher, I'm at a B because there's always room for improvement. And so, when you're doing something, there's always room for growth.
I am amazed because if you think about, while I don't disagree with you all, because I agree with what you're saying, but if you think about the way that we are portrayed in the media, if you think about the stories that you read and see, and the whole idea of the family falling apart, and and low unemployment, and all the socioeconomic issues and all of that, you would think that you guys might say we're not as good.
Oh,
B is pretty good.
But now,
absolutely not.
so no, not this group, and
Absolutely
not
not.
women in general. I don't think. But you have to pay attention to who's writing what they're writing.
Right.
Which is why I wanted to do this show today.
People are, others write about us as Black women and try to tell us what we're supposed to think or be or feel or look like or dress. But that's not overall Black women in this country. That's why we've been saving the country with all these elections
Over and
we've
over
been
again.
having. You know, I had to put that in
had
there.
to go there.
Over and over again.
And that is my opinion, everybody. But I do
That's my
believe
side.
we are keeping it from,
Yeah.
falling apart even more than it is. So, yes, we aren't going to let anyone else define us. We will write about ourselves. We will tell you who we are. We show you every day how strong we are in everything that we do, in all positions that we hold. And so, yeah, we be all the way. But A is what we're always striving to be,
forward.
because we always want to be better.
Sure.
And so
Absolutely.
that's where I have.
Okay, so with that in mind, then what are the critical issues, or what to you? Pick one that Black women are dealing with today, and how different are those issues from the women of the past? So, in other words, are we making are our problems still the same, or are we making progress, if you will, and encountering new challenges? But what would you say a critical issue, Gaylene? I know this week you were working on one, and you had a town hall about it.
There's always a double standard with women, and especially Black women, even in the penal system. And we have, the public opinion is that anyone who gets arrested, they need to be told where to go and not complain, and no one should advocate for them. And just recently we found out that in Hampton that there was only they can only house 5 women inmates, and the rest are being shipped out everywhere else. They clearly across the state, even as far as Roanoke. And last month, on February the 4th, an inmate died, and they were unaware, and even the father was unaware that she was even relocated. Black women are clearly being treated differently, especially in the penal system. It's almost like maternal health. When you complain, oh, you so strong, you can take this or whatever. And it's mind-boggling, because we had a forum on Monday and 150 people showed up. Because this is something that we have to address, the way our women and our Black women are treated in jail, and being separated from the family, and how victims can turn into offenders if you don't have restorative services in jail, and if you don't have restorative services for the family that's outside because they're being separated. And so this is a critical issue that we need to look more into. I've got a lot of information on this, more to come.
Okay.
It was really disheartening.
We can't hear you, Dawn, with your mic.
It was really disheartening to read the article about the sister who was jailed and had the baby.
Yes, that was in the pilot this week.
Yeah, couldn't be anything, but that was really disheartening. So I'm glad that article was published. Yeah. For me, I'll talk about finances. It's always about the money. As a mama, long time ago and today, how am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to be able to bring in what is needed to be able to feed, clothe, and move my family forward? And so, work opportunities, education, all of those things, they were different back then because you didn't need as much money back then, but it was still a struggling level. And we're still here again at the same point in a struggling level for many of our families. Now, many of us have grown and expanded our purses, thank goodness. And we have, and I see us do that, we are giving back to try to help others move up as Black women. That's one of the things I think in the support that we're able to give with the earnings that we now have, is that we're trying to help others, giving to young moms, young women, education piece, making sure that families have what they need. But finances is a hard one. That's, I think, is going to be with us. It's always going to be a part of it.
Alvean.
So I have 2. You said topics.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you heard the S. So we didn't hear that S.
Okay.
We didn't hear the S.
I got 2 listening exercises. Okay, there was an S on that, and the 2 are completely unrelated to one another. All right. So one of the from a business perspective. So I'm going to talk about both personal and professional. Professionally, I think one of the greatest challenges that we're facing as women of color in the workplace is the weaponization of our strength. I cannot begin to tell you how many corporations I go into and I watch women of color in positions of leadership that when they take a principled position on an issue, and there's even the slightest bit of passion in their communication about that issue, that somehow they're intimidating, bullying, aggressive, angry, and it's always being judged by, let me not say always because there's not an absolute, most often being judged by their female white counterpart. And that, for me, is problematic. Because if we as women do not stick together in the work that needs to be done, and we are pitting women against each other based on culture, we will always be making 70 cents on a dollar. Because when one gets in the room, we're not thinking about the other. When two are in the room, one of them's already planning what it is they're going to say about the other once she walks out of the room. If we keep doing these kinds of things to each other, we will constantly find ourselves pulling the back end of this train economically and professionally. So that weaponization, we can have some conversation about that later. The second thing is, the research that I did years ago in my doctoral research was exploring the relationship between trauma and self-sufficiency achievement, blah, blah, blah. One of the things that the research bared out over and over and over again is whoever those women, as they were coming out of economic dependence on the system, TANF in particular, whoever those women partnered with had a huge impact on whether or not they cycled back through TANF dependency. So if these women picked very positive partners, upwardly mobile partners, people that were working towards that same goal or had already achieved their own financial independence from the system, those women didn't come back through our doors. But if those women picked the same kinds of men that very often they were exposed to as children, they only repeated the cycle over and over again. So the same number of women who, the data showed that the same number of women who saw abusive, unstable, toxic relationships as children, or the same number of women experiencing that as an adult. There was a direct numeric correlation. So if we are not careful about what it is we bring into the most intimate spaces of our lives, we will change what our outcomes are. And those outcomes aren't just about relationships. Those outcomes are economic also. So I care very deeply about healthy relationships because that's not just about Black love. That's also about Black outcomes and Black opportunity and Black growth and Black expansion and ultimately Black excellence. It's all connected to the things that we do behind closed doors affect what happens in front of those doors.
Wow. Listen, speaking of the workplace, because I know we could just listen to Alvean all day.
Yes. Keep going.
I know. So Women in the Workplace is the largest comprehensive study of women in corporate America. LeanIn.org and McKinsey & Company, they've published this study annually since 2015. And the latest 2022 report, they found that women are still dramatically underrepresented in leadership. No surprise there, especially for women of color. Only 1 in 20 C-suite executives is a woman for every, and only 1 in 20 of women of color. So 20 women in the C-suite, 1 of them is of color. For every 100 men promoted from entry level to manager, only 82 are women of color. And now women are leaving companies at a higher rate than ever before. For every woman at the director level who gets promoted, 2 women directors are leaving. So if you look at overall, are we on pace in corporate America? You guys obviously have already said no, because you see that this is changing. And before we answer that, a couple of other things they found in the study. So Latinas and Black women are significantly less likely than women of other races and ethnicities to report their manager regularly shows interest in their career development. Asian women and black women are less likely than women of other races and ethnicities to say that someone in a more senior role has publicly praised their accomplishments or advocated for a compensation increase for them. So no mentors, nobody pushing you from below. And LGBTQ plus women and women with disabilities are subjected to more demeaning and othering microaggressions, such as having colleagues comment on their appearance or tell them that they look mad or should smile more. And women with disabilities are far more likely to have their judgment questioned in their areas of expertise and be mistaken for someone more junior. You know, walk in the room, honey, get me a cup of coffee. That has actually happened to me in my career.
Well, let me tell you what happened to me.
When I was the news director.
Really?
When I was the news director of a
They told you to get a cup of coffee.
top 40, yes. Someone walked into the building and I was coming down the hall and they asked me to get them a cup of coffee.
Wow. When I was 26 years old, I had a job as an area supervisor. And I'll never forget, the vice president brought me in and he said, "You're doing a great job. You're not like the others."
Oh yeah.
I thought it was a compliment and later realized it was an insult.
Yeah, I get that too, Gaylene. That you're not like those other black people.
Yeah.
And I say to people, what are you saying?
Right. Like, what
Why
planet?
do you think that is a compliment?
Exactly.
Because they don't know any better. It's as simple as that.
Ignorance.
Right. And they don't know any other black people, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Be.
You know, but you know, you have to interact with people to know people. But then you also have to be cognizant of yourself and your shortcomings when you're talking about people, period.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, keep in mind though, like it's a lot of what is normative is a byproduct of what our exposures have been, right? And if we are not represented as three-dimensional individuals in the media, which greatly shapes the realities of most Americans and quite frankly most people in the world, then we are these one-dimensional creatures. So, and very often we're one-dimensional creatures that are depicted in the worst stereotypical versions of ourselves, right? So that becomes other people's reality. So when they actually meet a person of color and interact in a way that doesn't match that, they're assuming we're the exception to the rule rather than realizing that they were watching the aberration. We are actually what most people of color actually are like, but that we don't get represented in that way publicly. So your truth is actually based on a lie. I actually am the truth. I represent what most, when people tell me, oh yeah, people of color do blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what people of color are you hanging out with? Because my doctor is a person of color, my lawyer is a person of color, my dentist is a person of color. All the professionals in my world, and I'm not saying I don't have others that are, but when that's normal for you, your reality is not my reality at all, and the reality that's being depicted is not my reality.
You know, the other thing that I get from that too, though, is the whole idea of safety, too, because when they're saying
For them,
not for you, for them, absolutely. The whole idea of you're not like those other people because I can talk to you, I can relate to you, I feel safe around you, as opposed to others.
I had a man come in my office last week because he had some issues, and I identified myself to him, and yes, he was a white male, and he didn't like what I was saying to him, and he said to me, well, I guess I'm going to have to go to the mayor. He's my friend. I said,
I would have picked up the phone. I want me down the number.
I said, he's my friend too, and he doesn't tell me what to do in my office. I'm like, this just last week, y'all.
What year is this?
But kudos to the young women. They are not taking this.
None of it.
They would leave and they'll go somewhere else or start their own business.
Well, and I was just getting ready to say
kudos,
and I'm proud of them.
Exactly, because they are moving on into finding their own businesses. As a matter of fact, according to Harvard Business Review, 17% of black women are in the process of starting or running new businesses compared to 10% of white women and 15% of white men.
Yeah, we're the
This is
highest
future.
number
we're
of
the highest
entrepreneurs.
number.
Yeah,
Well, we're
absolutely.
learning how to adapt, and we're learning what's important for us.
And we're also learning that if you don't build the table, you won't be sitting at it.
Correct.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Correct.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about the state of black women in America with the Another View Roundtable, relationship expert Dr. Alvean Lyons, Norfolk City Treasurer Daun Hester, and political consultant Gaylene Kanoyton. So let me move on to another question to you all, because here's one that we had on the list. So more black women are graduating from college than black men. So is that a plus for us, or is it another way to keep the black community in its place by creating division between the sexes?
Who's going first?
You go, girl, because I see it in your eyes.
So I will never see increase in opportunity as a negative, right? But progress does have consequence, right? So there is such thing as things going so well in your life that you outgrow those who are at the level before. You know, it happens. We all hope that the same people we love today will be part of our journey, 10 years from now, but that's not necessarily true for lots of different reasons, right? That are less about black and white as much as it is just about growth as a whole, right? But when you start talking about economic growth, we already are, and I don't remember the most recent stats, but it's like 1 to 12 or some nonsense like that in terms of the ratio between women and black men.
Right.
Okay. And from that number, you also have to subtract that we have gay black men, so they're not interested in you anyway, sis. Then you have those who have a credit score of -17. Then you have those who, have 6 kids with, whomever else. When you start taking away all of the people that wouldn't even be eligible for real for you as a partner, we haven't even gotten to the education factor. Now your numbers probably look more like 1 to 20 something, 1 to 30 something. So does it create division in the sense that it shrinks our pool because our standards and expectations are going to change of the kind of partner, generally speaking? Yes, there is consequence associated with that. But what we are not going to do as women of color is to stop growing in order to have company. Because it's better for you to be by yourself and brilliant, baby, than for you to be half the woman you were meant to be, to have a tenth of a man.
It's so funny. Before I started dating my husband, I told some girlfriends there were 3 guys that I was dating, you'd see on occasion. And I said, if you put all 3 of them together, they wouldn't have made one man. One man. So
that's right.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. You've experienced that, Gaylene, haven't you? As a single woman.
I just tell everybody it's like Nike, just do it. Really. I mean, we have our hands. I said it early on. Busy people get things done. Our family's always gonna come first. God's gonna come first. Our family's gonna come first, and then we take care of everything else.
Yeah.
Daun?
I don't know how to add to that. But I am glad that more women are getting an education. And as we continue to grow and blossom, then more men are going to continue and get education as well. And then it depends on what kind of education that you're talking about. So, there is a big gap.
Is it women's responsibility to help shrink that gap?
No. But it is our responsibility, I think, to also be supportive of men.
Oh, absolutely.
Got to be supportive of men. We all on a different journey every day.
Right.
We all striving to get better. Our men, our women, collectively, individually. So, we're all supposed to help each other. But no, it's not our responsibility. But we should be supportive because everybody doesn't know how to navigate a path.
Yeah.
So, that's a part of what we were talking about with the generational piece. I get to this step. And then it's like, okay, so then what do I do next? So what is next? So how do I find what is next? So who do I need to get in touch with? And a lot of that is connections and relationships that many of our children, I call them children, but young women and men don't have. So we have to be able to say to them, well, if you want to go to TCC, then this is who you call.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I have to call them and say, this person's going to call you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to follow up with that person and say, did you call them? Right. Yeah. So, but they don't know what the next steps are.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep continuing to encourage. And that's all the collective that we just bring on, to try to help make our community better.
Well, and relationships for women are so important. So this is the deal. I had the honor, seriously, y'all, on Tuesday night of having a fireside chat with Valerie Jarrett. The Honorable Valerie Jarrett. Yes. And it's amazing how many people I would say her name and they go,
Who is she?
Really?
But anyway, let me tell you who she is,
They aren't
audience.
black.
I'm like,
They aren't black.
I'm like, how do you not know?
It's true. The former senior advisor to President Obama. She is the only person to ever serve 8 years for any president.
Wow.
Okay, she is the longest holding of that position, and now she's CEO of the Obama Foundation. Now, one of the questions that I asked her was about self-care. And she said this. She said, quote, I have a few girlfriends who are completely unimpressed with what I do and care about me solely as their friend.
Absolutely.
And where are we on the girlfriend scale, y'all? Are we reality TV or do we really have authentic relationships?
Oh, I have
Dawn?
authentic relationships. And they go all the way back to high school. And so, yes, I have my crew that put me in check, that make sure that I'm taking care of myself, that say, okay, girls trip time. Yeah. And it's a handful.
Right, because you don't have
It's
to
a
have
handful.
you don't have to have a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you get older,
Gaylene.
you dwindle down your friends, right? Because you had a whole lot of them when you were younger, right?
Right.
But they really weren't friends. They were just people you were hanging out with. It's a different. It's a
And there's
hang out
a
with
difference.
friends.
Associates.
And so some of my closest friends has since passed. So I have a very, very limited, small circle of of people that that I thoroughly would trust my life with. And that's but it's friendships are sisterhood is very important to me. And even friendships, because I've got some male friends too that's real close. It's like a brother to me. So
I have more guy friends than I have girlfriends.
Now, why is that,
Shocking,
Alvean?
isn't it? Isn't it freaking shocking?
Yes. Now, why is that?
Now, I've got good girlfriends. Don't get me wrong. I love my girlfriends. I just have some really great guy friends. And I'm the first girl after 2 boys. So I grew up with brothers, so it was very natural to me. I find boy jokes funny, and I know that everybody else is offended, but I thought it was hilarious. So I understand that sometimes there feels like a little bit of a boy on the inside of me, like I was meant to be a boy mom or something, But I have a couple of really close girlfriends that I know that, they are my sisters. Like they truly are my sisters. But I'm not, it's funny, I'm not like shopping for new girlfriends, but I take on new guy friends all the time because guys are really low maintenance and they don't expect much from you.
They don't expect you to call every day.
Like they don't expect much from you. My girlfriends, I know that when I say yes to this relationship, I have to be invested because the standard is higher for female relationships, to be very honest, than they are for male relationships. So we expect each other to show up. Don't call yourself my girl and I can only call you in business hours, right? Like we expect you to show up. If I'm in the hospital, I don't need to put on my makeup because you're coming in. Like we're different with our sisters. I can ugly cry with you. And when we leave this room, we're both going to respect each other for everything that we are for the public eye. We do that thing and you fix my crown, you don't talk about it being crooked, right? Girls' friends have different kinds of relationships. My relationships with my guy friends, I talk to them all the time. But I know if I got sick, they'd be like, I'm going to send you flowers. No, I need you to show up at the hospital. What do you mean you're going to send me flowers? So, it's a different, they're very different kinds of relationships. When I get sick, my guy friends leave me alone to get better. When I get sick, my girlfriends show up to make sure I'm taking care of myself. They're very different kinds of relationships.
They're going to bring you food. They're going to do those kind of make sure.
Girl, did you get in the shower? They ask you. Girlfriends really different.
And also with girlfriends, especially for me, because I have a set of friends that are still in Baltimore in that area, and I live here. So there's distance, there's physical distance. But if I don't talk to them for a month,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yep. And when you talk again,
because
it's like it was yesterday.
It's like it was yesterday.
Yep.
Absolutely. And then there are other friends who are here, and for people who are in the public eye, especially, that whole idea of being unimpressed and
Yes.
Very important.
and that you can honestly trust them, talk to them, and you can be yourself with them is just incredible, because that is we have a phone call. Let's talk to James in Newport News. Hi, James. You're in the air.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Hey, I just wanted to call in. I got stuck out of the office and a work truck here and got to catch the conversation. I really enjoy the topic and the discussion, and wanted to say that I guess I'm one of those guy friends for Alvean. You have an amazing husband that'll bring you food at the hospital, but one of us can bring you something.
Noted, James. I got you, babe.
Thank you, James, for the call. We really appreciate that. So we talk about authentic friendships among women, but what about where do we fit on the love scale? Okay, so is it true, the myth true, that Black women don't support their Black men? Gaylene, let me start with you. In terms of love, not financially support, but meaning in relationship.
I disagree that we don't support. I think we do support.
I'm saying, is the myth true or not?
No, the myth is not true at all. We do support our Black male. We all have struggled. We have supported our Black males since slavery, right? Seriously, we have always put them on a pedestal. Even the Black male was the breadwinner. We will make sure we take care of the family and everything else. But this is nothing new. We support the Black male.
Okay.
Nothing much to add.
Nothing to add to that?
Yeah, except it's just a myth.
Exactly.
So let me read you a couple of things from this state. There's the new state of Black women in dating. So this is from the dating site Black. Okay. All right. The top 3 self-descriptions used by Black women are funny, family-oriented, and intelligent. So that's how they describe themselves. All right. The least desirable descriptions are ambitious, determined, and resourceful, which I thought was interesting. Good communication is the most valuable attribute in a relationship, followed by trust. When combined, these two factors account for 62% of what Black women consider to be important in a relationship. So they want to be able to communicate, and they want to be able to trust you. Which, I don't know, pretty good. Yeah. Past experiences or relationships have the biggest influence on Black women daters, 37%, followed by family and church. So that's who influences them in terms of who they select. Finding someone who shares their cultural experiences and values is the biggest challenge Black women find when dating, followed by finding a financially sound partner. There's Alvean and her minus 17.
Minus 17 credit score. Right.
80% of Black women daters are open to dating someone younger than them. Yeah, it's probably not surprising considering the pool is not that large. So trying to find somebody in your...
You got to expand that pool.
You got to expand the pool.
Sometimes you got to go swim in the kiddie pool. Only if it's legal, guys. Only if it's legal.
Thank you. Okay. 23% of Black women are open to dating someone who is or has been sexually fluid. That number jumps to 44% when looking at the 18 to 24 age group. So our younger sisters
don't really care about those
binary,
non-binary roles.
Those titles don't matter to them.
That's definitely a generational issue.
Yeah, absolutely. 57% of Black women feel that they must work harder than women of other races to be seen as attractive in the dating scene.
That part bothers me, but I understand it and I can see it, especially and it may be in all categories of women and races of women, but I just see our young ladies too much makeup. Excuse me.
Oh, the eyelashes.
Always, always feeling like that they have to be perfect in their attire, in their look, and, taking all the selfies. And I know that that's not just black girls only, but we are not perfect. And when you're in a relationship with somebody, you're not going to wake up the way you are once you put on your makeup. And so, the
and that's
natural
a really
self.
important thing.
Well, it depends what kind of makeup you got on.
Okay. But you're not gonna always have that makeup on. And so loving ourselves, our natural selves.
Right. That's
you can add the makeup, but love your natural self and your natural look.
Exactly.
And then you don't have to worry about all that and spend a whole lot of money on stuff you don't need.
And do you think that's something that we as more seasoned women need to help our younger women understand? Though seriously,
well, I do try, especially when I know they have too much makeup on, or it's too thick, or it just doesn't present them well. It doesn't enhance.
Yeah, it's supposed to enhance.
And so, I think I should, but only women that I can talk to.
Yeah.
That I'm mentoring, or in my.
Yeah, we can only do the small ones,
right?
But,
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because I'm in my mid-40s. My daughter is in her mid-20s because we all know I had children barely at 20 years old. My first child, and she doesn't wear makeup. And she doesn't wear makeup. Not that she never will, but 90% of the time she doesn't. And she does it very intentionally because she's like, if you're going to say that I'm beautiful, I want you to be saying that I'm beautiful, not the makeup that I put on my face. And so hair done, all of that. She takes very good care of herself, but she has a thing about someone complimenting something that's not really her. Which is unusual to me because most people in her generation, it's not even just makeup anymore. It really is plastic surgery that was done with makeup at this point. Like when you look at the before and afters on social media, it was like amazing. It's a frog and then it's a swan.
Yeah.
It goes, it's so dramatic.
But she also had a good mama.
Well, amen. Amen.
That's right.
Because my husband doesn't like a lot of makeup. He believes that makeup should be to enhance, not reconstruct your face. So my son used to always tease. He's like, look, the first date needs to be to the pool or the beach because I need to see what it really looks like after. He's like, that's the first date. We're not even getting to the second one until I've seen what that looks like when it all washes off.
My father was really big on me about makeup because I wore makeup. You go to school and put your makeup on, right? And I made the mistake of taking my school picture in 7th grade with my eyeshadow and lipstick on and big earrings. But anyway, busted. But my point is this: my father always said, "Less is more." And he says, you have natural beauty. You're supposed to enhance it, as your husband would say, enhance it. You don't need to have all this stuff on.
Right.
And most men don't find it attractive. We do it for each other, but most men actually don't like it.
That's very true. Most men do not like it. Yeah. Okay, how about this? 64% of black women do not feel safe as a black woman in America. And 56% do not feel safe on mainstream dating apps.
Wow.
I thought that's
an interesting statistic.
Well, we're not in a safe world right now, y'all. So I can understand that hesitancy.
Of those who do not feel safe on mainstream dating apps, no, that's a commercial. Never mind. The primary intention for black women on dating apps is to find a long-term relationship. That's 52%. And long-term relationships to marriage accounts for 78% of black women daters. So even though most of our women are single, they're still looking for that connection.
A good partner.
And I am here to tell you, never give up.
Okay? Because it comes when it's supposed to.
It comes when it's supposed to come. There is no question about that. Let's see if we can get a call in real quick. Vernon joins us from Newport News. Hi, Vernon. You're on the air.
Hi, how y'all doing today?
Okay.
Hey, Vernon.
All right. I don't know if y'all dealt with this because I missed the first 15 minutes of the hour. What do y'all think about possible Vice President Harris and Elizabeth Warren as a presidential ticket? I realize that Ms. Kanoyton Jordan might not want to comment on this, but just out of
Kanoyton.
curiosity.
Yes.
Gaylene Kanoyton.
All right, y'all have a good day.
Thank you. All right, Gaylene, we're calling you out.
We have 140 seats up in November. House and Senate races. That's what I'm focused on right now.
In Virginia.
In Virginia, in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's my focus right now. I will get to the next election after we win this election in November.
And what I will say to that is that will not carry across the country
It would
right
not.
now.
I would agree with
Not
you
right now.
It won't.
100%.
Not right now.
I don't even think that make
Maybe
it out
ever.
the blocks.
Maybe ever.
And you know that's
That's
really
a shame to
interesting.
say.
And you know, part of it is being realistic when you function in this world, is it not?
Yes.
I mean,
That is true.
So
That
to
is
be
true.
able to critically look at something and not just because someone is a woman or not.
Right.
Right.
But
should
it's
not be
okay
a
to have
point
two
to
men. It's okay to have two men. It's like, oh, okay, fine. But you have two women?
And
Double
women,
standard.
I think, well, I can't say this because I was going to say, I don't think there are many women who would be okay with two women.
Well,
Because
that
we
is-
know we're going to get it done, you know.
well, we found out
But
we don't
when
trust
we looked
each
at
other
the
either,
at
so-
the
That's the other part. That was the hesitancy.
Well,
we don't trust
because
each other
in the
either.
election with when Hillary Clinton was running for president, I mean, there were a
Right.
lot of women who
Right.
did not vote for her.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so
And I think that
There's-
had a lot to do and goes back to how the media portrays us, and then how people think of us when we're looking at each other from an outsider's perspective instead of knowing a person. Because we all have issues and flaws. But when you have to look at, and I'm just not going to talk about candidates, but leaders, CEOs, or whatever, as individuals who can lead, because we all are going to have issues in our leading and who we are, but you got to pick the people around you who are going to help you with the leading.
absolutely.
You know, it's not the one person is the head, but you got to have help.
But I think that there's something beautiful and tragic at the same time about that point that you're making, Barbara, in that as women, I find it insulting to just assume I'm going to back another woman just because she's a woman.
Correct.
Right? Like, or that just because I'm a person of color, that I'm
Exactly.
automatically going to vote for the person of color,
Right.
because we've had lots of candidates, we won't say on what sides of the aisle, that none of us as people of color were really trying to get behind. So we are not such a monolith, and we're not so singular and one-dimensional in our perception of the world that we are limited by gender, limited by culture, limited by, we need to vote for the people who best represent our values. And whatever package that comes in, that's the package it comes in. But the idea that just because we're women, we need to support all women, well, you know, there are lots of people who would have issue with Sarah Palin. She's a woman. We all didn't get behind her. You know, like, so if we're looking both sides of the aisle, the reality is that we are fully capable as women of color, and we are fully capable as women as a whole of discerning what it is we want and what we don't want. And I don't fault another woman for deciding that's not the woman to represent me, because that's to me no different than that's not the person to represent me. I don't like the idea of people thinking that just because we're women, we vote through bra sizes. We are very intelligent thinking creatures. We make decisions based on what it is that we want. Sometimes it's not the best decision. It's okay, but it's the freedom to make the decision.
decision. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So the last question I asked you guys was is there a historical figure or somebody still living who is your muse, who inspires you, who you turn to and think about as you're dealing with your day-to-day struggles as Black women? Did anybody have one they wanted to share? Actually, I'm going to ask Lisa Godley, our show producer,
I got one.
who can come in on the microphone because I know that she has a muse, I believe. Don't you, Lisa?
Yes, my muse is Ida B. Wells.
Okay, and tell us about Ida.
She's my inspiration, my shero. She was born during the Civil War. When the Civil War ended, she was 14 years old, and she raised her parents died of yellow fever shortly thereafter, and she raised her brothers and sisters. She became an activist, a journalist, an educator, a teacher. She spoke out about lynchings. She wrote about lynchings. They burned her printing press, pretty much, ran her from Mississippi, up to Chicago. But she was determined that she was going to tell that story. She was going to tell the story of what was happening, and folks didn't like hearing what was happening and regarding the lynchings. But she was determined that she was going to tell those stories, and she's just my shero.
And she did. Gaylene.
And mine, several, since I heard the S.
Okay.
In
All right.
1972,
We got 5 minutes left. So.
In 1972, Shirley Chisholm was running for president, and Barbara Jordan was elected as a congresswoman.
Barbara Jordan
and
had that voice.
They had two different perspectives. You know, Shirley Chisholm, she ran on I am unbought and unbossed, and she was very vocal. Whereas Barbara Jordan quietly worked to bring change and develop relationships. And so those were my two. And then also Dr. Mary Christian, she was my other one.
Oh,
the late
yeah.
Dr. Mary Christian, she was she fought for the voiceless. And now Senator Mamie Locke. She ain't scared to speak up.
Yeah, there you go. Very good. Okay, so of course my mother, Mary McLeod Bethune, educator, started the National Council of Negro Women, and I'm an educator, and so she's very influential
for you, Alvean.
So if I have to not use my auntie and my mommy, I would say that one of my favorites is Maya Angelou. Because it was the first time, her Still I Rise poem, it was the first time that I really, really understood that your art can be a weapon, that it's a force and a power in the world. And the way that she used words in that were woven together like a perfect tapestry to fall over one's body, to fully engulf, I was amazed by that. And I won one of my first poetry competitions reciting Still I Rise.
Oh, right now.
Yes, I love Maya.
That's nice.
And you can tell it affects you too because of the way you use your words and the way that you get in it. All right. Well, I actually have two living mentors right now. One is Paula Madison. She was the news director at the NBC affiliate in New York City in the 80s.
Wow.
So having a black woman running, and she went on to become an executive at NBC Universal. And she now owns her own company out on the West Coast and is doing incredible things. And then Dr. Sheila Brooks, who is the CEO of SRB Communications in Washington, D.C., one of the originals in NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists, the largest organization of journalists of color in this country. And then Belva Davis, who is now in her 90s. And Belva was the first black female reporter on TV on the West Coast. And she actually worked at KQED, which is a PBS affiliate. She anchored A Closer Look and then an evening edition from 1977 to 1981. She also she was the first one to do the country's first primetime public affairs program to focus on ethnic communities. And look what we do here for Another View today. Absolutely. And I've got to read this favorite quote to you guys. Her favorite quote: "Don't be afraid of the space between your dreams and reality. If you can dream it, you can make it too."
I know that's right.
That's nice.
And ladies, with that, we're out of time.
Oh, wow. This was
It's always too fast.
Yes.
Oh, God. And thank you, audience, so much for the privilege of your time this Thursday afternoon. You can listen to this program again by downloading our podcast at anotherviewradio.org, and where you can find all of our shows on that site if you just scroll all the way down to the bottom and click on View Show Archives. And also, if you go to that page, you can see Alvean and you can see Daun. And Gaylene, we got to add your picture, but there's information there for you. And you can always find us on social media. We're on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter at Barbara Ham Lee. Next week on Another View, we are working on the show, so we will tell you. You'll find out on social media, so check us out there. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. Did you notice all those women's names that I read? I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Thanks so much for listening, and let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View. And we love Dr. Barry Graham.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.